Okay, so let's do functions, because this is where it gets a little bit rougher for people who are coming from JavaScript. All right, so with TypeScript, again, the whole point is that everything has a type. So when we do functions, that means that the parameters for the functions have to have a type, and the return for the function has to have a type. So let's go ahead and do our calculation function. So we're going to write a function to add two numbers together. Okay, that's what we're going to do. So we still start with the word function, that doesn't change. And then you still have the name for the function. Let's say calculate sum. All right, here's where the difference comes in. So first off, you have your parameters. In JavaScript, for example, you can have like A and B, right? The problem with TypeScript is it says you have to have a type for these variables. So you have to say what they are. So for example, A is a number. B is a number. Okay, so you have to actually do colon and then the type. That means that this function does not only accepts numbers. It does not accept strings. It does not accept booleans. It does not accept it does not accept symbol or undefined or null. No, it numbers. That's it. Okay. Then you do your curly brackets, and then you got your basic function. Now, here's the part that it's going to be a little mind bendy. Our function calculates sum, takes in two numbers, A and B, and returns a number. So you actually have to say to TypeScript what you're returning. So you do colon, okay, and then number. Okay, now it's going to be a red squiggly at the beginning because TypeScript is strict. TypeScript is looking at your function and says, wait a second, you told me that calculate sum returns a number. I don't see a return keyword, and I don't see you returning a number. So right now, your code will not run. So we actually have to complete the function in order for it to run. So we could do return A plus B. And see how those red squigglies went away? So I'm going to just do that again. So here, there is no return. You said that this function returns a number. TypeScript's like, bro, I don't see you returning anything, right? So even if, let's say I return a string, like for example, if I return Jonathan, that would be wrong, okay? You said this returns a number. This is not a number. Therefore, type string is not assignable to type number. You get an error, it will not run. I can do return A plus B, and then no red squiggly lines, everything is great. Function, name of the function, the parameters, so that you do the name of the parameter, colon, and then the type, in this case number. Then after the parentheses, you'll do another colon, and then the return type. What is this thing going to return? Boolean, number, string, whatever, right? And then you do your code and you return something. TypeScript will make certain that you follow the rules. That's why we use TypeScript. TypeScript gives you rules. It says, you told me that this function takes in two numbers and returns a number. Then you need to make certain the code does that. If the code doesn't do that, you don't get to run it. Now, calling functions is the same way. We'll do the name of the function and then parentheses. However, we will notice that if I just don't give parameters, you see how it's all red? This must have two parameters. You said in calculate sum, there are two parameters. You must give me two parameters. So we'll give it 2 and 3. Everything's hunky-dory. You must give it numbers. I cannot do this. Okay, this will error because this is a string. These types don't match. This type and the type you have here do not match. So therefore, there is an error. You must give it a number. This is great because when we do our functions, we know what kind of input we're getting because TypeScript will force the issue. Right? TypeScript will say, no, you must get a number. You cannot do anything else. Nothing else is possible. So this might seem restrictive to people who are used to JavaScript and just kind of, coding any which way they want. And that's the point. The point of TypeScript is to be restrictive. It is to basically say you must think about what your function actually does and spell it out and follow the rules. Couple little small things about functions. Now, let's do another function. Let's say function print name. Okay, this function is going to console log a name. So let's say name, like a person name, which is of type string. Okay, now I didn't put a colon here. if you put nothing, right, it would default to what's called void. There is another return type, which we have not learned in JavaScript because that's not a thing in JavaScript. Void means nothing. This function doesn't return anything. Okay, there's going to be no return keyword. No return keyword will you find here. That means the function doesn't return anything. Okay, that means that you can't return a number, you can't return a string, nothing. Okay, void means you return nothing. Now you might be saying, Jonathan, if earlier we had said that TypeScript can infer variables, like for example, if I put let first name equals Jonathan, that it said first name was a string, yes, it can infer the return type of a function. So if I don't put anything here, okay, then it will know that print name returns void. If you hover over the function, you'll see function print name, and you'll see the return is void by default because you didn't put a return statement. If you put a return statement, return person name, and hover over it, see how the return type changed to string? Okay, so it will infer what the return is based on what you do. Okay, but you still have to follow the rules. Here's what I mean by that. Let's go back to void. Okay, so I'm going to explicitly do it, :void. Okay, cool. So since this print name returns void, I can't save the result in the variable because it doesn't return anything. So I could not do this. Okay, so this is going to come back with nothing, right? So this will be void. Okay, nothing. There'll be nothing in here. So there's kind of no point in doing this. So you will be able to keep the type of the return. So let's say I return this as a string. Okay, notice how this is a string and this has void, so there's a mismatch. So I gotta change this. Okay, we'll return a string. Return person name, excuse me, person name. There we go. All right, that's a string, and now this becomes a string. So because what's your name is a string, I cannot do like what's your name equals 0 later. Like that's not a thing. What's your name is a string. All right, so that's kind of the cool thing about TypeScript. Some people like this. I personally like it. I can go to sleep at night knowing my function is never going to receive an input it's not supposed to. I cannot do print name 0. Okay, that won't run. And so since it won't run, I don't have to worry about any bugs that might come up from someone putting something weird into the function. The function takes a string, it returns a string. That's it. It does not allow anything else, right? So yes, it's restrictive and it can be very annoying at the beginning, but it's still very useful because it prevents bugs in our program that JavaScript might otherwise let through.